Good morning, Larry.
Rabbi Prague, everybody. Hi, good morning.
בוקר טוב. איך עבר הלילה בארץ? איזה חדשות יש?
Ravi Malha, that the bid to, the Haredi bill is the big news today.
You mean the ladies? Should the ladies be supported?
It looks like they don't have a majority to pass the bill. They're not going to pass the bill to continue to send the aid.
You know why it's a mind-boggling? Because for an Arab lady that her son committed suicide is walking, of course we have to support her. Not because she's an Arab, because she's a citizen. I mean, such a discrimination. Okay, this is a part of the challenges in Israel.
Right. Okay.
Now look a second, please, in Masechet Kiddushin 29. This week is a parasha of the Brit Milah. So when they come in, no one is here yet. We'll see the psukim, but let's see a second the Mishnah. Mishnah in Kiddushin 29.
Kiddushin 29, okay. Okay,
Kol mitzvot, you have the Mishnah. Kol mitzvot haben alav, anashim chayavim v'nashim p'turot. All the 5 obligations that a father has to his son, he is the one who is obligated, but not the mother. So look a second in the Gemara. Look at the Gemara. At the 6th line of the Gemara. Amar Rav Yehuda Achika Amar. What does it mean? Kol mitzvot. Listen to the language. Kol mitzvot haben. Hala. Without learning the Gemara, you will say Kol mitzvot haben. The mitzvot that the ben is commanded to fill for his father. But the Gemara learns differently. The Gemara learns that Kol mitzvot haben alav means all the mitzvot that the father has to do for the son. If so, why is the Mishnah labeling it? Kol mitzvot haben alav should be Kol mitzvot ha'av alav ben. See, according to many commentators, what the Gemara is hinting, what the Mishnah is hinting, the mitzvot is mitzvot on the ben, which means a Jewish kid has to be circumcised. Who is commanded to do it? The father. שומע כל מצוות הבן. כמה? מי מחויב לעשות את זה? Allah. We'll see later, the Mitbah says it in others, but in the language of the Mishnah, it's medugdak very much. So we look at the Gemara now in the 6th line. Amar Rav Yehuda Achika Amar. כל מצוות הבן. אתה שומע? המוטלות עליו לעשות לבנו. The mitzvah begins from the son, who is in charge of fulfilling it. In a minute you will see that this definition has halachic consequences. Anashim chayavim v'anashim p'turot. So all the 5 which the Gemara is going to list, Anashim chayavim v'anashim p'turot. Tanina aleha, the Mishnah corresponds to what we are about to learn in the Baraita. Ha'av chayav bebno lemulo, Brit Milah, לפדותו ובדין, וללמדו תורה. 4th, להשיאו אישה. And the 5th, ללמדו אומנות. To teach him a trade, we should be able to make a living. Yes,
Rabbi Prague, why does Rashi not have it in the Rashi there? Why does Rashi not have it in that order? And he doesn't, I don't think he lists Ulamda Umanut. You see the Rashi before in Amar Rabbi Yehuda, it says Hamutalot ala Av Kagon Hinach Mefarish B'Vrayt Lamdam Torah Ulamulo Uliftoto Beheslaim Ulasu Isho, and then it doesn't add. How come it changes? Rashi doesn't list the same, and is there any significance that it's the same order?
Because those that he's listing are the Oraita. The other one, לא מפורש בתורה, ברית מילה, פדיון הבן, ללמדו תורה is מפורש. We're looking, Nathan, we are learning דף כ"ט.
Interesting.
ויש אומרים אף, ויש אומרים אף, להשיתו במים. This sounds very much out of character, of course. What is the teacher son swimming?
Everything was good with that back.
What?
It must mean that everything was, they lived near the water, so they had to do something. Meaning, when they traveled by boat.
Yeah, Nathan says they lived in Babel. He says there are many lakes. Everyone understands what the Braita says, but if you have such a heavy duty obligation of ברית מילה, פדיון הבן, לימוד תורה, then you throw me, how about keeping Shabbat? The Braita doesn't have to listen.
I bet you it happened in the day of Qumran, even up until modern, that if you have identical twins and you have a pigeon, then maybe they got mixed up.
It's very possible.
So you would have to do both, I guess, the one bracha for both, or somehow.
It's the same as always. So the serious commentators say, Nathan, what is rule number one? Are you a good swimmer? You swim?
Yeah.
What's the rule that they taught you right away in the beginning? Keep always your head above the water.
Right.
Now, Shitoba Maya means teach your son to keep his head above the water. The water is the world. We live in an ocean. Wow. Teach your son as he swims through life. Keep your head. Your stomach should be ahead of your head. You understand? This is depth. Yes?
Wow.
Avnei Nezer was. We are looking here in Daf Chavtet. The Braita is listing the 5 obligations of a father to a son. But so here, let's say Lemulo Minalan. We are learning in Daf Chavtet, 4 or 5 lines before the white line. How do we know that the father is commended? Lemulo. If you realize the languages, the Rambam says the mitzvah is that the father himself to circumcise the son. Most of us don't know how to do it. But lemulo min aran, the father himself is commended. Daf Chavtet Amud Aleph. Dichtiv, you have a few lines before the white lines. Dichtiv vayamol Avraham et Yitzchak beno. Okay? In a minute we'll open the Chumash. We are this week in Parashat Lech Lecha. All the details of mitzvah Brit Milah are written in Lech Lecha. Here the Gemara jumps now to Vayera. We'll see in a minute. Veheicha delo ma'aleh afua. But his father was not able, either physically or is unable to hire a moher. It might be in jail, it might be in the army, it might be not around, it might be overseas. Ve'eicha delo ma'aleh afua. The community, one of the great commentators on Gemara Kiddushin is Sefer HaMakneh. He brings many rayot that Beidina doesn't mean that the rabbis. Beidina means the community. Normally, the thing is in charge to fulfill our communal obligation. But Beidina means you and me and everyone in the community. Yes. In reality, the Beit Din is doing it. Dichtiv, Himol Lachem Kol Zachar. In the middle, we'll look at the Psukim inside. Everyone has a Chumash in front of him. So first, the father, either to do it himself or at least to hire a moher. somehow the father is not around, the community or the Beit Din is taking over. Ve'eicha delo mahale Beit Dina. As it happens, let's say in America here or in Israel, if the community cannot get involved, mechayev you, when the child is reaching the age of 13, he is commanded to hire a moher or to do it to himself. במבהר נפשי, תכתיב, וערל זכר אשר לא ימול את בשר עורלתו, the first white line, ונכרתה. So we have 3 פסוקים. The first one, ויאמר אברהם את יצחק בנו כאשר ציווה אותו, Abraham himself is doing it, the father is commanded. The second one is, if the father is unable, it's a communal obligation in the Beit Din or whatever the rabbis are fulfilling. And the third one is himself. Let's take the Chumash a minute, let's look at the Psukim.
In a town, nobody is really
What?
in a town, a small town, that very few Jews, and nobody knows how to do it. Do you have to take can you learn it online and do your studies in Sagana?
So you have to raise money from people and hire them from New York City or Los Angeles and pay for the ticket. And instead, the community is not to do it here. To make sure that the baby in the community is not.
Rabbi Benham's father-in-law, Shalom, was living in Rochester, New York, and he was a mohel. He used to travel all around up in New York State doing mohel for people.
This is
That's what he
exactly.
did all the time.
This is exactly what the Gemara is saying. Look a second first in Perek, I'm looking here, Perek Chaf Aleph, Pasuk Dalet.
You say that there's people have no money, the mohel has to do it for free?
Is it always that there's no charge? Is it always that there's no charge and it's a courtesy to give the mohel the money? Or?
Everywhere, serious, but tell you, I'm not taking money. If you want, then you ask him what's the going rate. He told you many times, it's Rabbi Zimmerman, Rabbi Shalom, all of them. He realized the family really doesn't have money. He used to say, I'm not accepting cash.
It's an operation.
He used to say, I'm not accepting cash, only checks.
And even never catch the check.
Never cash the check. When I went to pay a shiva call, his son took out 2 big boxes. He was a big box, he was a big man. Size was like 11. Hundreds of checks, in cash. I told him, why didn't you bury it with your father? He says, of course I wanted to this to you after that. This is a kind of Torah.
Why is it better to give to donation? Because I wrote a check of $300. I forget about it, so I don't know what happened.
Rabbi Arari is the first one in the community. Every time people offer me for services and I'm not taking, you want to give me a little bit of tzedakah. Talk about tens of thousands of dollars with the year. It's not only for me to realize, but religious service. He says, this is my job. People want to pay. This is him. He and his wife, Baruch Hashem, made a nice living. Others need it for the
I was talking to Vicky
But the concept,
this week. I was talking to Vicky, and she said, in the beginning, they needed the money,
of course.
and he said, no, I'm a rabbi of the community, I can't take it.
Later, you need it. But in the beginning, of course, you need to do it.
Speaking of the rabbi, if you didn't hear the Arayat speeches that were last Sunday, I think he put it on the BSC chat.
Yeah,
It's
sorry.
I listened.
very moving.
Very
Jack
moving.
Cohen,
Jack was
beyond
Yeah, yeah.
belief.
Yeah,
Beyond. He
Beyond.
gave the history of every innovation that the rabbi did.
everything.
And
And
what
how
the
is his
impact on-
memory? Unbelievable.
Just amazing.
Yeah.
Who knew? I mean, showed how low key the rabbi was. You almost forget the things that he did because he was so low key.
So look a second on page 94. Remember, we are going to see that this week's parasha, Parashat Lech Lecha, has many psukim regarding Brit Milah, but the Gemara doesn't bring and the psukim of this week's parasha. The Gemara goes to Parashat Vayera after Yitzchak was born. So look a second, please, on page Vayu, it's 94, it's chapter 21. Vayamar Avraham את יצחק בנו, בן 8 ימים, כאשר ציווה אותו אלוקים. You do understand that the Gemara brings this pasuk, it doesn't bring a dozen psukim in this week's parasha, because here it says the father should do it, yeah? ויאמר לאברהם את יצחק בנו, כאשר ציווה אותו אלוקים. Remember the word אותו. The pasuk could have said, כאשר ציווה הוא השם. Like the God commanded, the Torah goes out of the way to emphasize he was commanded. So the Gemara is going to learn for it that the mother is not obligated.
Okay, I argue that he was the only one who could do it because he already had a milah, so actually there were no other people who could do, right? Doesn't the person who has that person has a milah is the only one who could do a milah? Am I correct?
If it would be him, I would ask Eliezer to do it. After Abraham did it to Eliezer, which is obligated, as we're going to see in the parasha.
Oh, we have Eliezer.
You have already hundreds of
It's an
people.
interesting question. Because
You have
you don't
already
have a
100.
woman, but she's an
You
Eved.
have hundreds of people around that have a good milah. Remember, this is years, 10 years after Abraham was the age
You
of
did buy it to make the kesef?
course. Let's go now to Parashat Lech Lecha. Your Chumash is open, please.
You're saying a woman can't. A woman is like an Eved,
Yeah,
but an
halacha
Eved
is
had a
that
milah.
The
So
halacha
Eved
is
can.
that a woman can,
Okay.
if
all
there's
right.
no other word anyway. Yeah.
Okay.
Rabbi, why is the pasuk 4 is written before 5?
Joseph is asking, how come the pasuk says that Abraham named him? Yes, pasuk says, "Vayikra Abraham Shem ben Aritzim." It was a pasuk, and Joseph is right. The name was given to him before.
Shem
Now
already
look,
gave the
look
name
at,
before
of
that.
course, Hashem gave the
He already gave the name.
Hashem gave the name Joseph before Yitzchak was born.
No, here's the 5 is said Abraham was 110 years old when his son Isaac was born. This is pasuk 5.
He was told before by Hashem that the Bekarat Shmo Yitzchak. And Hashem
Abraham. In 4 it said Abraham circumcised his son, and then it says he was 120 when his son was born. So
I'm not sure what's your question.
the pasuk 4 it says Abraham circumcised his son at the age of 8 days. Then it says on pasuk 5 Abraham was 100 years old when his son was born. So it shouldn't be like he was 100 years old when his son was born, and he circumcised after 8 days.
Interesting.
Well, I thought your question a different question.
That they just really focus on the Abraham's age, not necessarily the birth of the child, per se.
More than that, the Torah wants to tell us, as Eli pointed out. I mean, imagine, there's a rabbi in Israel. He was 80 years old. He had a child. Let's say he's a boy. He would not be his son's people. I'm 80 years old. Abraham, the son that you waited 90 years to be born, you're doing the Brit Milah yourself. Abraham ben Meah, because God told him, he didn't look for a way out, that the younger Moel, like Eliezer, Abraham himself. So here the emphasis, Joseph, is not only that he became a father of 100, he did it at the age of 100. My opinion is that this was, of course, a Yom Kippur. Go to Parashat Lech Lecha. Let's see this week's parasha and see.
I mean, Hashem names Yitzchak, not Abraham, right?
No, I thought, you see,
Yeah,
when Joseph was asking the question, I thought that Joseph's question was, how come the Pasuk says that he was named Yitzchak before the Pasuk says if he was circumcised? The answer is the name is already given before he was born.
The name was given at the end of the parsha.
Yeah, of course. Look a second, please, on page 74. Pasuk Tet on top. It's Perak Yud Zayin, Pasuk Tet. ויאמר אלוקים אל אברהם, ואתה את בריתי תשמור, אתה וזרעך אחריך לדורותם. You and the offspring. Okay, so we're not going into it now.
Yeah, it
the
means you
Arab,
stop here.
assuming,
Yeah.
assuming that the Muslims, assuming
Yeah.
that they are descendants of Abraham, are they mechuyav or not? You do know that every Muslim has a Brit Milah at the age of 13. They always try to hire Jewish Molim. Yeah. But the Brit Milah by them is not exactly as ours. By us, first you remove the foreskin and then you kill. This is Priya. By Bnei Noach, it's only the Milah, not the Priya. Now let's continue. וזאת בריתי אשר תשמרו ביני וביניכם, בין זרעך אחריך, הימול לכם כל זכר. We're learning text. Honey, what is the English translation of הימול לכם כל זכר?
Every male among you shall be circumcised.
Let me show you.
It's
Joseph.
passive, it's not active.
Joseph is doing it to his children. Jeff did it. I did it. What's himmel? Here is the pasuk that the Gemara learns that there is a communal obligation. If the father doesn't do it here,
Gotta
it's
get
always in the pasuk.
Gotta get done.
First, it says that the Jewish community should not have kids that are not circumcised. Who is commanded, we'll see in a minute. But first, it's a communal obligation to make sure that there aren't any. This is how the Gemara learns with this pasuk. Then, unemaltem et basar olatzchem. When you are circumcised, v'haya leot brit, beini u'beinichem, this is a covenant between us and Reuven. Shmonat yamim, imol lachem kol zachar לדורותיכם. And listen good now, יליד בית ומקנת כסף. What does it mean יליד בית? He was born in the house or he was purchased. This pasuk is talking about slaves. If a Jewish man has female self-defense, the children that are born to her is commended to make a brit milah to them on the 8th day. Miknat kesef, if a Jewish man is purchasing a slave, he's obligated. If he is not doing it, it says in Sefer Shemot, the Jewish man is not permitted to eat Korban Pesach. If you have an obligation to circumcise your son, your slave, and you are not, you please look at the Rashi on the right side.
What happens if the slave doesn't accept the circumcision?
What?
If he doesn't accept the circumcision?
You mean if the slave doesn't want, the Jew is obligated to sell him after him.
Yeah, to sell him.
You give him a year chance, you know, if he doesn't want, you have to, but you cannot keep him in your house.
Even if you lose money, you bought it for
No,
$100.
but you know, you have to, I mean, remember, you have to know when you purchase him. I mean, smartly, talk to him before. Let's just think about it. It doesn't work. That's all. Please look at the Rashi. יליד בית שילדתו השפחה בבית. יליד בית, he was born in your house. ומקנת כסף שקנאו ושנולד. I purchased him, he's already 8 years old. Yes. Okay. So let's go further. So we learned that the Jewish community has an obligation to our own children or to those who we own as slaves. Let's continue Pasuk Gimal. Himol. This is a very interesting double lashon. This is the Pasuk here, right? The Gemara learns out that the Gentile cannot make it with Milah. How do we know? Himol. You are circumcised. You can circumcise others.
Yeah.
Since a Goy is not, so an American doctor, if he's not Jewish, cannot do it with Milah. Himol. The Gemara learns out Hamal Himol. Now, what happened theoretically? I'm Jewish, but I didn't have a Brit Milah. Can I, as a doctor, perform? The answer is yes. It's not if physically I have.
Even though he's not
If I'm commended to do it, this is enough.
then how do women fit in there? They don't have the potential. You would tell me you don't. Well, so how would we go? It seems to go against the pasuk, the pshat.
Right. Imol. Yelid Beitcha, obviously the Gemara says in Avodah Zarah, the Gemara discusses it. There is another drasha from the Pasuk.
Okay.
Imol Yelid Beitcha, again, the slave who was born by you, Mikrat Kaspacha, the one you purchased. Now, what is this Pasuk now? V'haita briti b'bsarchem lebrit olam. What does it mean? What is the English translation? And my what?
Thus my covenant shall be in your flesh for an everlasting covenant.
No, it's good for speech as a Brit Milah. What does it mean? In reality, it means that in addition of me and you having a Brit Milah on the 8th day, is another mitzvah that means you have to be in the covenant forever. What does it mean? So before we say the halachic consequences, David HaMelech is basing in his bathhouse, and he looks on his body and he's naked. He says, I'm naked from all the mitzvot.
Yeah, right.
All day David was wearing tefillin. Yeah? All day David was wearing Sefer Torah in his hand. Yes?
Yeah.
Here is, then he looks, oh, I have a Brit Milah. So David HaMelech says, oh, I'm happy, I have a Brit Milah. But yeah, 40 years ago, your father made a Brit Milah to you right now. But the answer is here, yes. Says the Bet Halevi, you see here, the Torah says that there is a mitzvah that applies for life. Yes? In a minute you'll see how important this definition is. So again, there is a mitzvah on the 8th day, or any other day you can do after. But after the act was completed, there is a mitzvah to be in the covenant, okay? A man comes to us and says, listen, I would like to have a plastic surgeon to remove the lump. Have to be in the belief forever. And you'll see in a minute that perhaps this obligation is explaining to us, is the mitzvah zeman gerama or not? This mitzvah is a mitzvah forever. You know?
So if it's a mitzvah grama, then we don't need the learning of Otov Otah.
What?
If it's a mitzvah,
In a minute. Yeah, Eli says, so Maze, Laila or not, we'll see, of course. I mean, I'm learning the psukim
The
because
first
every
concept
New
is
York
the person has it with them the whole life. It's not the timing that's permanent. It's not the actually creating it. It's just
correct.
having it.
But
Like
don't-
we have deal, don't leave
We
home
will
without
see
it.
very soon that the Tosafot are asking, why do I need a pasuk to excuse a woman or to exempt a woman? It's mitzvah shazman gerama because the mitzvah of Brit Milah cannot be performed at night.
But don't you have to renew it on at your bar mitzvah because your father did it, you were a minor, but really it cannot be something on forever.
We saw before the father didn't do it. The community didn't do it.
Okay.
Then when the kid becomes 13 years
But
his
how
own.
can you commit for a lifetime? Don't you have to renew it at your bar mitzvah or something like that?
Right, it's not as done to the child as a
Like a
minor,
gift.
so to speak. The child never
Like
had the covenant to accept the covenant, so to
Like I
speak.
said before,
if a child didn't have the covenant 8 days
before
old,
everyone came in,
That's it.
how does the child have a covenant at 8 days or at 10 years?
In a minute, we'll talk about it also. Before everyone came in, we showed Larry the language of the Mishnah is Kol mitzvot haben alav. And the Gemara explains Kol mitzvot haben alav means all the mitzvot that the father has to do to the child. So why is the Mishnah using the funny language?
Yeah.
Mitzvot haben. The mitzvah of Brit Milah, Joseph, is on the child. The father is fulfilling the mitzvah of the child.
I guess.
Who did the Torah appoint to fulfill the mitzvah that the child has? You, the father. If not, it's the community.
But in a wedding case, you marry your daughter at minor age, the girl can change her mind later on, after she became a major.
So let's say you're a firstborn.
She's married. She can change her mind and get divorced, and then she stands on her own.
Rabbi Prague, what happens if you're
Married legally
marriage is
because
the
they
marriage.
wanted married you as a father.
Father, it's about.
what happens if you're you have to be going back to Brit Milah? So you're saying that at 13 the child, it was done, he has hatafat bam brit at 30, he has to do hatafat bam brit at 13.
No, chas
No.
v'shalom.
No,
Good. I didn't
If
he never had it done.
the baby is labeled Arel, Ayin, Reish, Lamed, which means nothing was done to you, neither by your father, nor by the community. You have a private. But if the Brit Milah was done, it's not an Arel anymore.
And what happens if at a Pidyon Haben, if at 30 days the family doesn't do a Pidyon Haben, is it on the community to do it?
Very good question. So we are going to see that the community is not obligated. When the kid becomes 13, then he has to redeem himself. But we are skipping this step. The Gemara learns it from the Pasuk.
Had a case many years.
Unlike Brit Milah, that you have the father, the community, and the child himself, by Pidyon Haben is the father. Then we jump 13 years later. 30 months.
I had a case of many years ago. I was praying in the dome, Shachrit, and Rabbi Heck, so I said, please cut the mayor, said the minyan. There was an Israeli woman whose husband did not want to do Pidyon, so we did the Pidyon ceremony. His right hand is off.
You hear what he said? Why did Rabbi Heck do it? The answer is like this. If you look in Shulchan Aruch or the Gemara, the obligation really is on the child. To understand in a situation like this, of course, this was non-religious. This will never ever do Pidyon Haben.
But Rabbi,
Have a second. Originally, they used to put a engraved tablet on the chest of the kid. Ani b'chol. When I become 13, I need a Pidyon Haben. But of course, with the years, you cannot rely on a kid. So today, what Rabbi Hecht did is exactly what all the rabbis do in many communities when they realize that if they don't do it, it's not going to happen. So they are doing it. So when they realize it's not so simple because the obligation really is on the kid. So by doing that, you're really taking it away from them. However,
She did it on his
no. The answer is we assume it's not going to be done. How in the world would the kid know? I the one he knows that he
13 years later.
13 years.
but wait, if you don't do a Pidyon Haben, what's the punishment of not doing, what's the downside of not doing a Pidyon Haben?
The downside of the parents or the kid?
On either.
Nothing. It's the same. I'm sorry to say nothing.
No, because I'm
I'm answering in the language of your question. It's like not putting tefillin.
No, there's another question behind it. Because
I understand.
if you don't do a Brit Milah, you're in Arel, you can't have Karban Pesach. Big
Right.
deal.
Right. He's not losing any. He's asking if a Brit Milah was not done to a kid, he cannot eat Korban Pesach. Right? He cannot eat Truma. Truma, if you are a Kohen and a Brit Milah was not performed to you, you cannot eat Truma. You mean there are no halachic.
They didn't have a
No,
Pidyon.
they're not exactly alike. They don't,
And the child.
Could he do B'ker Kohanim?
because you wouldn't know today. I happen to be a Bechor. How would I, all right, but if I didn't have a Pidyon Haben, who would know? And what would be the big
It's a
deal?
good-
But
Very good
on a Brit Milah, you could tell.
Listen carefully. Let's say Rani and many of you serve this Kohanim. The Gra of Vilna, every Kohen that he met, he gave him Chamesh Layim. Says, I'm a Bechor. My father, of course, redeemed me, but I'm not 100% sure.
That the Kohen was Muksa.
Kohen. Rabbi Spitz from Queens, now we moved from Queens to New Jersey. He is a Kohen, and many babies were redeemed by him. Every time, right after the Pidyon, he used to give the father the money back and say, you did your mitzvah. I'm not sure that I'm a Kohen, so I'm returning the money to you.
Yeah.
You understand? He doesn't have to do it. Because if you know that your father is a Kohen, you're a Kohen.
Zet Hashem, next Friday morning, I'm going to be the Kohen.
Hey, Rani is going to
Pidyon
be.
of my great grandson.
He told us yesterday was the Milah.
Twin boys.
But the Milah wasn't postponed Milah.
Yeah.
The Pidyon Haben is Bisman. So
I have to practice. A lot of heat.
I told you, no, but
Do they get a family? Do the Kohen have an ability to give a family discount, Rabbi Parag?
He's obligated to take the exact amount, otherwise the kid is not redeemed.
Right, right. It has to be the right amount.
Redemption is always based on the current silver money. If you remember at the beginning, about 30, 40 years ago, silver jumped to $50 an hour. The hot brothers did something, and then the money for Pidyon Ben went up. Everything is based. In Jewish law, pruta is a half a barley grain in silver. So, okay, but anyway, in modern time, it's approximately 100 grams of silver,
These are
which is
silver dollars.
approximately three and a half.
These are silver dollars.
It's needless to say, of course, that he doesn't have to be 5 coins. If the coin needs a pair of shoes and he's willing to accept it,
I'm only
and the
taking
price-
coins, and we're planning to sell them
He's in
at
the
the
shoe
chance.
business.
Plenty sell them for big money. Plenty sell them for big money.
yeah, let's go further to the Pasuk.
Lovely simcha, lovely simcha.
Amen. Yeah, it is much. So, but you see, by in the Sephardic community, Pidyon Ben is more rare than Ashkenazim because the percentage of Kohanim is
Very
much
high.
greater. So the duties of Kohanim is much more common. By Ashkenazim, it's only if you are Kohen or Levi. I'm a Levi and I'm a Kohen. I didn't have Pidyon Ben, neither my son, for the same reason. By Sfaradim, you have many more because the duty of the Kohen, even though she is married to a non-Kohen, retains a name as a daughter of a Kohen, and therefore she's exempt. The child is exempt from Pidyon Ben. And now let's go back to the Psukim. So we understand now that there is a general command. This is from the Beit HaLevi. Yeah? V'haita beriti b'bsarchem lebnit olam. You have to remain circumcised. Okay? In a minute you'll see more halachic consequences. Now here is the Pasuk Yudalet. Ve'arer zachar. We clearly the Pasuk. The male that was not circumcised, asher lo yimor el besar olato, v'nichreta hanefesh ההיא מהמת. Here is the pasuk in the Gemara that we just read. Now, that when the kid gets 13, it's his obligation. So who gets the credit? The kid, not the father. See, we are always under the impression that Brit Milah is a heavy-duty mitzvah, and there is a karet, correct? But the karet is at the charge. If he is 13, now again, as Larry, yeah, if a kid is unaware, he's born to a foreign family that is totally unaffiliated, he has no clue, yes? If he doesn't have a Brit Milah, it's not his fault. Yeah, but normally I think most Jews know about it.
So here's Robert, from the English only. Says if he hasn't done it, he's invalidated the covenant. Did he have a covenant? He never had it in the first place. How is it invalidating? The covenant was given to Hashem, but he had to have it, but he had to get the covenant.
Correct,
He never had the covenant. How's it
Covenant
invalidating?
is given to the Jewish people.
The
It's out.
command without the action
He
necessarily.
never entered Zohar. Zohar is basically,
Rabbi Prague, are there any mitzvah? Are there any lota says involved with milah that we have?
yeah, Brit Milah, yes, but not the Pidyon Ben.
No. What's the lota and Brit Milah?
No, it's only the negative
Not
outcome. It's not due.
No, it's actually, it's the only one that you.
No, because I'm asking because I'm
So,
no parent.
you're pointing out
Parent-
the Gemara said there are only 2 mitzvot that said if you have karet. One is Brit Milah, the second
Yeah,
is
okay. And Carbon Pesach, okay. But I'm asking because I happen to be learning Shkagot. So what happens if the father doesn't know that he has to have his son has to be born, has to be mild on the 8th day,
Night.
and he does it on the
the
9th?
Mishnah over there, 36, Chayvek Yetut, is not listening. Take one Rambam out, Sefer Rambam. You know, if you look open, Larry, open in the
Because
doctrine of
that, I want to find out if it's a lotas set.
the Rambam, in the doctrine of the Rambam, Sefer Rava Ilchot Milah, I'll read it to you. This is the rule. The Rambam always in the introduction is giving you a list of how many mitzvot I say a lot of. I'm opening the Rambam Ilchot Milah, and I'm reading you the headline. Mitzvat Aseh Achat. Vehi
That's the end of it. Okay, thank you.
is it. Otherwise, the Rambam would say one of lotas.
The lotas, that's why I wanted to ask if there's any lotas set here.
Well, it's one
We should only
mitzvah.
know inventory as well.
What?
We should only know inventory as well as you know the location.
I told you once, a person asked me, he happened to be in the shoe business. I told him, do you know where every shoe is if someone is? Yeah.
Mostly, but not.
Yeah, but Rabbi Prague, don't trade it. To learn how to do the internet, don't trade it, Rabbi, but please, never have a Havamina.
I know what I know and I know what I don't know. Don't worry, it's good.
A person doesn't get malkut because he can always fix it, right?
What?
He can always get the milah, so he doesn't get malkut.
But there's no lotas, say Eli.
He's saying, no, Eli is saying, see what he answers you?
What?
If he doesn't do it, you cannot give him a court. A court is only if there is a lotus.
That's why I asked if there was a lotas involved.
You said, even though it's karet, I thought the reason why he
You
doesn't
said
get
it
malkut.
before, the karet is under assay.
On the assay, and it's only
No physical punishment by the court if you are not doing it, unlike if you eat a cheeseburger, not a cheeseburger, a filet mignon, or unlike you eating chametz on Pesach, or if you ate a Yom Kippur, so the halacha is chayvei kiretut, you get malkot. Here there's no
When
malkot.
we get to karet, when you die,
Oh, so the Rambam says only before you die. The Ravad says that every day that passes by, there is a karet. So remember, we read all the Pesukim, we understand perfectly why the Gemara first went to Parashat Vayera to show us that it's a father's obligation. We understand also perfectly the Pesukim. Himor lachem is talking to the community. Then V'arel zachar asher lo yimor. Yes. Let's go now to page 76 when Abraham is doing it now. Remember, this is this week's parasha at the end. Look at Pasuk Chav Gimel, page 76, Pasuk Chav Gimel, Larry Bayou, Perek Yud
I have it. I'm using your chumash now.
Oh, Vayikach Avraham, listen carefully what it says now. Vayikach Avraham et Ishmael beno. Now remember, Ishmael by now is close to 12.
Yeah.
That kol yelidei beito, all the
all the
slaves that were born by him,
Just like that.
that kol mikrat kaspo, those slaves that he purchased, kol zachar be'anshei beit Avraham, vayamar et besar or latam. Either he did all of them or he hired Eli, Eliezer or others. בעצם היום הזה, מה זה? וימר את בשר עולתם, בעצם היום הזה, כאשר דיבר איתו, look further, in a minute, ואברהם, בן 99 שנה, 99 years old, הוא did the ברית מילה, he did it to himself, והימולו בשר עולתו, וישמעאל, בנו, בן 13 שנה, so Ishmael is 13, והימולו את בשר עולתו.
And Abraham did it on Ishmael.
Give credit to the Muslims. It's easier to have a brit milah the 8th day than to have it.
But they're actually supposed to have it on the 8th day, even though it says somewhere else Ishmael was done at 13.
Yeah, but this
Afterwards,
is
it says-
what the Muslims do.
No, I know.
What can you
I know.
do? I told you that I have a book in the house written by Moel. He did a lot of things, but he traveled to Russia, to Romania, to Europe when communism did not allow really circumcision. Okay, it's fascinating. So he says normally used to do the Brit Milah. I used to tell the people come to the cemetery. Every old Jewish cemetery had a room, you know, when you purify the body. So I used to tell the let's say teenagers, the people when you bring 4 friends with you, bring a bottle of vodka. Lie,
Anesthesia, right?
lie, and instead of putting you to sleep, the friend go down.
wow.
He writes that once he had a kid of 17 or 18, he says, I'm not drinking, I'm not. Says, why? Says, I'm glad to feel that I'm
Wow.
entering the covenant. What the Moel writes in the book, he says, I start to cry. You imagine
But the Mesiras Nefesh of the Arab, I mean, is a really, I mean, forget all the politics. To do it at 13 years old, if you believe, is unbelievable.
Agreed. And as Rabbi Franz says, only he has the guts to say, says we can learn from the Goyim, for the Arabs how to pray also.
Yeah, Rabbi France says it 5 times a day they pray or whatever. and
That's
we
a
can-
zechut. That's a zechut.
Yeah, that's right. Thanks, Heike.
There's West 4th, you know, this is a busy train station in the afternoon. An Arab in front of millions of
Calm it
people
down.
takes
They'll
out.
stop anywhere.
I would be in bed. Yes, we stand in the middle of Times Square to say, see, you have to give, Frank says it openly, give him credit. He says, you know what he said? What? You know what my friend really says from the Abnei Nezer? He says from the Abnei Nezer, you hear this? Every mitzvah, or every way that we perform, if we are not doing it right, I mean, the Muslims or others will take it from us. There are many things they do. This excitement or the kavod for the, I have to play.
That's why they have the kale in the middle of their names.
Yeah,
Ishmael.
yeah. You do know that the Zohar says that this is the Zohar, this, if I bring it from the house, that because Ishmael had the Brit in 13, the Zohar says that in the end of days, Ishmael, the descendants of Ishmael, the Zohar is the Tanaim, are going to try to kick the Jews from Eretz Israel by the claim, as we are going to see soon, that our right to Israel has to do with the Brit Milah. And this is what Hashem says, you are enter in the covenant and I'm giving you the land. They say it's we are the first. So the Zohar says, at the end of days, the Muslims are going, the Muslims, the descendants of Ishmael, are going to claim and to the pillar.
I just imagine almost all the Muslims get circumcised, but all the Jews, they don't get circumcised.
But this is part of our challenge.
10% maybe some, maybe 5%. Really? I mean, Jews, like all the liberals or something, they don't get circumcised.
I have no clue what it is.
Rabbi Prague, going back to what you said, if the father doesn't teach his kid Torah, is the community forced to teach him?
זה שאלה יפה, זה שאלה טובה. באמת, the Gemara doesn't say. But if you learn the Gemara in Baba Batra, I think I showed you once in around Daf 22-23, the Gemara tells us that the reason why the concept of public Jewish schools was open is exactly for that. Because in the time of the Gemara, they realized that some Jewish kids don't have it because the father cannot do it because he's too busy.
Rabbi, that's why they have rabbis. The rabbis are like the students are like their sons.
It says to open schools. You realize the Gemara says,
Yeah, Rambam has, you have to be called krach v'krach, whatever.
We are the first one to introduce the concept of public education. And the Gemara even lists how many kids should be in a room, in a class.
But I still think it's fascinating that Rashi starts Lalamdo before the bris. I agree. I mean, there has to be a reason. He didn't put words out of order, and it's also 8 o'clock. I know we have to go, Rabbi.
I have the clock now in front of me. I mean, be'emet. We'll continue tomorrow. Much
Rabbi.
More. Yes, I'm listening.
Rabbi, what's a good time to call you today, Rabbi?
The best time really is about 7:45. I'm definitely over 7:45, 7.
Okay, I'll call you that time. Have a great day, Rabbi. Thank you.
Have a wonderful day.
Rabbi, I want to say the Etzem.
I didn't have time tomorrow. We'll come back to it.
Wow.
For me, Avraham Avinu was reluctant. Avraham Avinu was reluctant because he was afraid of what would the neighbors say. The same as Banuach, he says, "Be'etzem hayom hazeh noach." And he said by Moshe Rabbeinu, remember the question tomorrow, I showed you.
Also, we should talk about Zipporah.
Yeah,
I'm going to be out
Zipporah,
somebody else asked, I'll be out of town tomorrow.
Okay, but you keep